Feeling on top of the world, Sasha Simmons woke up after celebrating her 25th birthday and noticed a change in her body. After a visit to the doctor, she learned she had fibroids, a painful discovery that she could feel, and one that left a physical reminder.
I will never forget, I probably was about 27 or 28 when I went to the doctor, and the doctor sitting in the chair, she told me, she's like, you'll never be able to have babies. Like, you're never going to be able to have a successful pregnancy. And I lost it. Like, I literally just started bawling in the doctor's office because that's not something you want to hear if you want to be a mother at 28 years old. And I'm thinking, who's going to love me if I can't have a kid?
Fibroids are non-cancerous growths in the uterus that can develop during a woman's childbearing years. Up to 80% of women will have them by the time they turn 50. And it's important to note, according to womenshealth.org, Black American women are more likely to develop fibroids than white women. On this episode of Girl, We Need to Talk, Sasha shares how fibroids impacted her future plans and how she's thriving through it all. My father died on June 20th, 2018. I was 37 years old, and suddenly everything I knew about myself was uprooted. I had so many questions, and there were so many layers to peel back. Who was my daddy? And who am I as a result? What was his legacy? And what will mine be? My mantra for 2019 was happy, healthy, whole. I was determined to face my grief and heal. And my girls were there with me every single step of the way. I found strength in my vulnerability, and we had open, honest, transparent conversations. And that's what we're gonna do here in this space. So grab your journal, light some candles, pour a glass of wine, and get cozy. Because girl, we need to talk. Welcome back to Girl, We Need to Talk. I'm Charity Bailey. Sasha, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Charity. Happy to be here.
Now, this has been a painful thing for you, and especially to find something like this on your 25th birthday as you're celebrating and at the height of your life at the time. How did it impact you emotionally? What was going through your mind? How were you feeling?
Well, oh my gosh, it was like my world literally stopped overnight. Like one night you're out celebrating with your friends, and the next day you find out you had what my doctor told me was a uterine tumor. And when I heard those words, I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was cancerous. I thought I was about to die. I had been going, to the OBGYN every single year getting my checkup. So I didn't understand how this could happen out of nowhere and why there were really no answers. Is this something that I did to myself? Like, where did this come from? What caused it? And I slipped into depression really, really quickly because it was changing so much of my life and it felt so private. And I just had a lot of emotions going through me at that time.
Now, you said you were going to your annual exams. How did they miss it?
Girl, we need to talk.
Right. Yeah. That's why we're here.
Yeah. And this is why, especially Black women, you have to be adamant. You have to know your body. You have to, understand changes. And I had been feeling a little odd, just a tiny bit. And I kept going, asking my doctor if everything was okay. And they kept telling me everything is perfectly fine. We'll see you in a year. And literally, I woke up the next day after my 25th birthday, and I felt like I was pregnant. I thought that I was pregnant. And after taking so many pregnancy tests, I realized that I wasn't. And so my best friend encouraged me to go to the doctor because I was really nervous. Like, I have this growth in my body, and you could feel it. It felt like a ball was in my stomach. And that's what I kept telling my best friend. It feels like a ball's in my stomach, like a grapefruit or something, feel it. And when she felt it, she could feel how hard it is, which is a description of fibroids. And so I went to the doctor, and the nurse, laid me down on the bed, and she put all the jelly on my belly and was doing an ultrasound. And she said, you look pregnant. And she asked me, had I ever been pregnant? And I said, no. And she said, have you ever had a baby? And I was like, no, I can't be pregnant. And you have to have one in order to have the other. And she said, are you sure? And I'm like, I think I would know if I had a baby.
Right. Yeah.
So, I got the news, and that's when I started to learn about uterine fibroids.
So did you even know what fibroids were before experiencing this?
I had no idea, Charity, because I really didn't have any of the symptoms. So a lot of women, they experience really heavy bleeding, pelvic pain, painful intercourse, blood clots. And I literally was what they call asymptomatic, except for the protruding belly. And at the height of it, I looked like I was 6 months pregnant. And my doctors believe that my fibroid probably weighed somewhere between 10 to 13 pounds in my body at the time. And I mean, all the restrictions that a pregnant woman had, like you reach down, you can't really tie your shoes. I was experiencing all of that, but physically, you know, on the outside, but I didn't have any of the symptoms inside of my body. So I didn't know.
So you're talking about the physical changes to your body. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't know it, but did other people notice? Like, how did other people react to it? Because you're a smaller woman too. You're small in stature. Let's be very clear. You're small in stature, but you're big. Everything else is big. So, but when people saw you, how did they respond?
Yeah, so a lot of people thought I was pregnant, right? People will say, congratulations. I've had strangers come up to me and congratulate me. And I'll never forget probably one of the most jarring moments. I was about to go on stage for a speaking engagement, and another speaker behind stage, literally as they're calling my name, she's like, oh my gosh, congratulations. I didn't know you were expected. And they're like, Sasha Simmons coming to the stage. And my energy, it just completely altered how I delivered that speech, because if you're not pregnant, you don't want to present as pregnant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're having challenges with fertility, if you have those issues and people think that you are. So yeah, a lot of people think that, you know, I am pregnant, or I was pregnant at the time. And that was really, really hard. I didn't suffer with those type of body issues prior to having fibroids, but that was really hard for me. And it made me not want to date. It made me not want to, like, you know, share my body with anybody or even talk about what I was going through. I was really, really quiet about it.
How do you go about it being so quiet when you are a public speaker and you're always out in front of people? How did that impact your job and how you present to your audiences?
It's been a journey, and it's been quite a challenge. And I will say, I thank God for the coaches that I work with today, and the doctors, the natural doctors that I work with today. But it's just been, historically, it was really hard for me, and to the point where I stopped speaking. I was so angry. I was angry at God for a while. Like, why am I going through this? Because I know my purpose in life. Like, I know my purpose is to speak and to inspire, without a doubt. And so I couldn't make sense. 27-year-old Sasha, 28-year-old Sasha, I couldn't make sense in my head. God, why would you give me this talent and then also give me this affliction that makes me not want to stand in front of people and talk? So if this is what it is, I'm just not going to do it. I became stubborn, right? Like, I just did not want to do it anymore. So I stopped speaking for about 2.5 years, and I just would not do it. And finally, through, you know, therapy and praying and meditation and talking to my friends, I started to do it again, to go ahead and speak and to live in my calling again.
Well, a lot of women are dealing with what you're dealing with, and you talk about purpose and you talk about your calling, and some women feel like a part of their purpose and a part of their calling is motherhood. And a lot of times as a society, we associate motherhood with womanhood.
Yeah.
So what kind of toll did that take on your heart?
Oh gosh, I will never forget. I probably was about 27 or 28 when I went to the doctor, because at first they had me coming in every 6 months because they wanted to monitor it and just, you know, see how aggressively it was growing. And the doctor, sitting in the chair, she told me, she's like, you'll never be able to have babies. Like, you're never going to be able to have a successful pregnancy. And I lost it. Like, I literally just started bawling in the doctor's office, because that's not something you want to hear if you want to be a mother at 28 years old, you know? And I remember I went home that night and I couldn't sleep. I was up, I was sad. I was researching. I'm thinking, you know, who's going to love me if I can't have a kid, right? Like, that's running through your mind. And a lot of women deal with this level of depression and challenges when you have fertility issues. And so I remember thinking that over and over. And I was up probably about 2 o'clock in the morning doing research, and there are surgeries for it and different things, but all the surgery, in most cases, they come back, right? 90% of the time the fibroids end up coming back. You can get a hysterectomy. Of course, I don't want to do that. And as I was doing some research, that's when my best friend sent me Coach Jesse's information. And I was going to go through with the surgery. Like, I was going to go ahead and schedule the surgery and say, forget about it, because I'm tired of just dealing with it. She sent me Coach Jesse's information. And that's when I started my journey to, you know, to be on the natural path to heal fibroids naturally.
Okay, so we're going to get back to the healing part in just a bit, but I want to talk a little more about the expectation because you're a Southern woman. You grew up in with a religious background. A lot of
Mhm.
times,
Mhm.
especially as we're aging, we meet men who want to have children. So how did you deal with that expectation versus the reality, and what was the grieving process like?
Yeah, I think I just shut a lot of people out, shut a lot of people down. I never let it get to that point as far as dating with men. In hindsight, I didn't realize it at the time, but in hindsight, I was very closed off. Once we got to a certain point in the relationship, I would disappear. I didn't want to go further. I didn't want to have the conversation about family and building and what that looks like. And I didn't trust a lot of the men to actually understand what I was going to, or to be vulnerable in the way. I didn't feel comfortable being vulnerable with a lot of people about what I was going through. So I would just shut down and deal with it on my own.
What brought you to that space to where you're able to be vulnerable, with your friends and family, the men you're dating, your audiences?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Charity, every day it's still a journey. It's still a struggle. But I think going through that healing process and talking to my best friend and another really close friend of mine, they told me eventually, I think you should just tell your story, Sasha. A lot of women are going through that. And going again, just going through healing, I started to just become more and more courageous. And the more I talked about it, the more courageous I became. The more women I met who said, I'm going through the same thing, or I'm going through something
Mhm.
very similar. And I realized that I wasn't alone. It's so many women who are experiencing the same types of things. And it's important to be a family and to have that support system. And so for a long time, I felt like I was on this island isolated by myself because I
Mhm.
wouldn't let people in and I wouldn't talk about it. But now, through healing and through trusting that small bit of people I had in my life that I was willing to share my
Mhm.
story with, I just started to become more and more courageous.
So you talk a lot about your community and the people that you were able to share with, your best friend, the people in your close circle, your family. But how did you break it to your mom and to your other family members?
Well, I didn't tell my mom. My brother told my mom. I was in the
Oh.
hospital. Yeah, I was in the hospital, and going to hospitals was something that was shunned in the religion that I grew up in, which is another story that we probably don't have time for. You didn't go to hospitals, you didn't get medical attention. You only go to the hospital if you absolutely had to, right? So I didn't want my mother to know that I was actually in the hospital. And I was
Mm.
talking to my brother. My brothers and I are both very close. And I was telling him what was going on. I was so scared. I was 25. I was nervous. And my brother said, I think you should tell mom. And I was like, I don't want to tell her because I feel like, I'm just going to go through negative energy, or I'm going to be bashed, or I don't want to tell her. And he said, how about this? I'll tell her and I will tell her to call you. So he did that. He told her, and then she called me, and she was very gentle with it. And she told me, and she understood it. She's like, you can always come to me. I'm your mother, no matter what. Like, I never want you to feel like you can't talk to me about
Mm.
something. So that's how I broke the news to my family, essentially. But I think that there are expectations that we have as women that are instilled in us from very small
Mhm.
little as a girl, right? Like, you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z. And if you cannot do X, Y, and Z, something is wrong with you. No one
Yeah.
wants to feel like something's wrong with them or admit it. So you carry this shame by yourself and you try to navigate it and figure it out on your own.
Yeah. It's the whole womanhood thing. Because also you're like, so I didn't do those three things, and suddenly I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So what were you told about being able to have children?
So my doctors told me that I can have what's called a myomectomy, and a myomectomy is where they surgically remove the fibroids from, in your uterus or around your uterus. Again, those typically come back. You can have a hysterectomy, so completely remove the uterus altogether. There's also another surgery, and the name of it is escaping me right now, but they basically block the tubes where the fibroids are getting the blood supply. But my doctor had always told me that because of the size of my fibroids, it would be excruciatingly painful for me. So that was not an option for me. And then there is kind of this menopause medication that they can give you as well that you can take to shrink fibroids called Lupin and Lupron,
Uh,
excuse me. And
yeah.
however, they don't recommend it. At least when I first started dealing with fibroids, they didn't recommend it if you ever want to get pregnant because it kind of makes the uterus mushy. And it's very interesting because you'll speak to some doctors and they speak about it so cavalier, like it's not a big deal. But then you have some doctors who will really tell you what's up. And gratefully, my doctor, because I was like, well, maybe I should just do it. And he said, it's not as easy as you think. It's really rough on your body. And if you are a young woman who wants to get pregnant at some point, you probably should not do it right now. So then I decided not to try it at all. But those were the options that were presented by me by different doctors.
Whew. So what other types of care did you seek out? Because clearly what they were talking about was not in the cards for you.
Yeah. So again, what happened was I had went to the doctor and decided to move forward with a myomectomy. I was over it. I was tired. I was sad. I didn't want to carry this weight around anymore. I didn't want to feel like the oddball out. I wanted to be able to wear a bikini and look fabulous in it, darling. And I just couldn't do that. I couldn't do that with this protruding belly looking like I'm 6 months pregnant. So I decided that I wanted to do that. And I went home and was doing all this research. I was up, I was crying, I was sad because I felt like that was my only option. I felt stuck, right? And you never want to be in a situation where you feel stuck and where you feel desperate. And literally, I promise you, Charity, it was like 2 a.m. in the morning. My homegirl who lives in New York sent me a message. I don't know what she was doing up because it was 2 a.m. Phoenix time. So it was super early for her. And she sent me a message about Coach Jessie. And she said, hey, you should follow this lady. She's working with removing fibroids naturally. And so I sent Coach Jessie this long message, and it was the weekend. And I didn't think she would respond. I was like, you're probably not going to get it until Monday. And by Monday, like I'll probably be having my surgery. But this is where I am. I don't know if you can help. I know my situation is extreme. And literally, I woke up the next morning and had a message from her, and she said, cancel your surgery. There's hope. And we started the journey there. Yes, ma'am.
So what did that entail? And is it working?
Yep, it is. Yes. So the program is called the Detox Now, and it's completely a natural-based program. And so what causes fibroid is estrogen dominance. So I have really high levels of estrogen in my body. And once you have super high levels, it will start to develop, you'll have these growths develop around your uterus. And so what the Detox Now is, it's an online wellness program that educates women about womb health and how to reverse inflammatory conditions like fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS, those type of things that disproportionately affect Black and brown women, we know, right? And so she's a Black woman. She dealt with it for so long. And it's challenging because it's a plant-based diet. You have all of these
herbs. I remember one time we was all hanging out with the fellas and eating chicken and grilled sausages and stuff. I said, Sasha is good. You had your water, your veggies, you brought it to the party. I said, okay.
It takes dedication, Charity, but it is the only thing that works without adverse effects that I've found, and at least for me. And my situation was aggressive. My fibroid was 25 centimeters, right, at its peak.
Wow.
I mean, huge, right? Like
how big is it now?
9.5 centimeters.
It all shrunk because of Coach Jessie?
Yes. And Dr. Amun, they work together as a team. And I'm not the only woman. We have another woman in the program who she had 50 fibroids. They're all gone. All of them.
So gone. It's just like basically a plant-based diet and lots of water.
Plant-based diet, reducing your stress. Like there are things we have to do. Like you make sure you're eating clean, right? You're drinking your water, you're getting the appropriate amounts of sunlight, and they have these herbs that we take on the program. And so I have a lot of different herbs that I'm taking to boost my blood, to reduce the fibroids, to like make sure my iron is where it needs to be, because that's something that you have to really, really pay close attention to if you're dealing with fibroids, especially if you're having a lot of bleeding. And so it's very strict, it is challenging, but it's a community of women and they're all seeking womb health, and it works. It's the only thing that I know for a fact works without any adverse effects, like the only thing that I found. And I have been researching and dealing with this for years.
My goodness, before it to shrink that much. And how do you feel? Does your body feel different?
My body feels better. My skin is glowing. You see it. all around, like, you know, I'm more regular, I sleep better, I have more energy. And I will say it's important coaching is important, right? No matter what you're doing, coaching is important, community is important. And so we have ladies who are in this group, and we're encouraging each other and we're holding each other accountable, because it's hard to really change that lifestyle. I'm from the South, right? I like smothered pork chops and gravies, macaroni and cheese, cornbread, and collard greens. You know what I mean? Like, food.
I'm like, where's the hot sauce?
Hallelujah. I like the food. And everybody in my family can cook, but these are also the things that's causing us these adverse, you know, health effects. These are also the things that's stopping us from being able to procreate, that and stress, you know, and dealing with the stress of being a Black woman in the world, like seeing people you love being shot down. All those stressors add to making fibroids grow. Absolutely. Hands down, without a doubt. And right now I'm eating to live, right? Like I'm eating to live. And when I eat, it feels good, right? And it's learning a completely new lifestyle, it's learning a completely new way of living and eating, because we weren't taught, you know, I never heard of quinoa before, you know, like I never heard about it. When I think about, you know, having a plant-based diet, it's all boring. And I'm just thinking I'm going to be eating celery and grass, hungry, shivering on the floor. But there are so many great, tasty options, and I love it.
Well, you seem really hopeful. And that makes me happy. So what are the possibilities at this point? What are you considering? What are you looking into? Are you just kind of going with it?
I'm going with it at this point. And, you know, the beautiful thing, Charity, for me is that when my fibroids come out, because they come out naturally and on their own, and there's no pain, but you know when it's happening, when they come out, I'm okay, and I know what's going on with my body. And so I'm looking forward to the day where they're all gone. And it's still a journey, but this will likely be a lifestyle change for me. And it's okay, right? It's okay that I can't wow out and eat macaroni and cheese every 3 days like I, you know, did in the past. And it's
also, you don't have like one cheat day, like,
you know, when I'm going hard. Here's the thing. When I'm going hard, no. But here's the thing about cheat days, Charity, and on this program. You have to be careful, because my ass don't know how to cheat, right? Like if I eat wings, I'm eating a bucket of chicken wings.
I'm finna feel attacked. Hold on, let me drink my tea right quick. I done had surgery, so I can't no more. But prior to this, I would be like, okay, it's
a slippery slope. And that's the thing, like one crab leg leads to unlimited crab legs for the next 3 months, at least for me.
So you're not extremely limited. You're just relearning how to eat and how to feel your body.
You're relearning, and it's a beautiful process. This relearning, if you're open to it. Now, I am going to be honest with you. It takes a bit of an adjustment. It takes a lot of work. It's more so mindset and preparation than anything. Like you said, when we were hanging out with my friends, I brought the food. I have to bring it with me, because if not, you know, the wings are looking at me, I'm looking at it. And, you know, it smells good. The aroma's there. But if you eat ahead of time, or if you have something, then you're fine. So I never let myself get hungry. I just make sure I have.
But our friends know how to cook. And when I walked in the house, like it was smelling like just grilled everything. And then I saw your box over there, your lunch pail. And I was like, oh, I aspire. I ain't there yet, Jesus.
Don't talk about my lunch pail.
But I'm saying, we see people do it when they're just like going hard in the gym. But for you to do that and be so proactive, it's I mean, you are to be applauded. But also for you, like you said, it's mind over matter, and you want to heal your body more than you want to eat chicken wings and you know, hot links. So before we you mentioned that you could feel the fibroids. What does something like that even feel like?
Fortunately for me, I did not have pain, but it just feels like weight in your body, something heavy, something round in your body. Now, I will say, if I eat red meat or if I drink red wine, I can feel it growing, literally, like I can feel it almost throbbing in my abdomen section as a response. Typically within 6 to 9 hours after ingesting red wine or red meat, I can literally feel my fibroid just throbbing. And it's again, it's not painful, but it's this feeling internally that I know it's there. And I've cheated in my life, right? As far as food is concerned, like I know that I shouldn't be eating a hamburger, and I went ahead and had the hamburger. And the only time I feel that feeling is when I eat the red meat and the red wine. So I know what's happening to my body at this point. And it's important to pay attention to what you're feeling. So I love that you asked that question, because yeah, I will feel it get kind of like the bloating feeling that you feel maybe right before you have your menstrual cycle. You'll feel that, and just heavy, and just this object in your abdomen.
So is all liquor out or just red wine?
According to the Detox Now, all liquor. I'm still working on that part though. Pray for me.
I was on now. Wait a minute.
Pray for me, Saint.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, Sasha, you've experienced so much, and there are so many women who are just stepping into this part of the journey. They're, or actually, you know what? Wherever they're at in the journey, what is it that you have to say to other women who are either at the beginning, the middle, it's been ongoing?
Yeah. I would say to women who are going through, anything related to fertility issues, you are not alone. Understand you are not alone. And that feeling of isolation, or that feeling of being inadequate, it's in your head. It's a valid feeling, but I want you to understand to reach out to someone. Reach out to your friend group, your girls, come into the community, the Detox Now community. Hit me up on social media. At the Sasha Simmons, we can chat. Understand that you're not alone. It is a process. It's a journey, and you may have all these questions. There are answers for your questions, especially now. You said, Charity, we have access to so much information, which is beautiful, because we have much more information about it now than we did when I was first diagnosed with fibroids, when I was 25. So understand that you are not alone. There's a community of women out here who are willing to support you, who are going through it with you, and who will battle alongside of you.
Well, what you said is very true. The whole premise of Girl We Need to Talk is so that people understand that they're not alone. And each season we plan on dedicating an episode to battling our bodies, because so much of who we are stems from this vessel right here. And there's an internal struggle that so many of us are dealing with, whether it's weight or fibroids or PCOS, you name it, it's happening. And so we need to talk about it so that we can become healthier and happier and live long lives. So I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for sharing your story. I'm so happy that you didn't allow it to sideline your purpose, and that you continue to carry on with your smoothies and your water and your lunch pail. So cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
To being happy, healthy, and whole. Yes. I love you.
I love you.
On the next Girl We Need to Talk.
But when it gets to the point where it's starting to feel impossible, or you're starting to feel yourself wanting to run away, that was a big flag for me with anxiety, was that it was getting to the point where I didn't want to hold my baby. I didn't want to be around my baby. And I really started thinking, gosh, it would probably be better if they just did this without me.
Thank you for watching Girl We Need to Talk. You can find me across all social media platforms at Miss Charity Bailey. Make sure you like and subscribe.